welcome to another jewelry making video brought to you by keepsakecrafts.net. Today we're going to make these pretty sparkly earrings using Swarovski crystals. They're special enough to wear for the holidays, but they're also pretty for all year through. Since we're using Swarovski crystals for these earrings, they really sparkle like nothing else. We're also going to use some nicer components. We're going to use silver-plated ear wires. You could also use sterling silver. We're going to use fine silver-plated chain, and we're going to use sterling silver filled wire for our wrapping. So you'll need 2 ear wires. You'll need 6 pieces of chain, 2 that are 1 inch, 2 that are 1/2 inch, and 2 that are 1/4 inch. And what I suggest you do when you're cutting lengths of chain is that you count the links. Mine has about 15 links per inch, but count and see how many links are in an inch. Cut one piece and then just count that many links and cut your next one. I think these have 8 links each and these have 4 links each. That just makes it a little easier and more certain to get even measurements. You'll also need 2 6mm Swarovski bicones, 4 4mm Swarovskis bicones, and then you'll need 6 10mm Swarovski heart pendants. These are the ones with the little hole drilled at the top. I have 2 in clear with an Aurora Borealis finish and 2 in cyan, the red color. For tools you'll need round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, and wire cutters. So the first thing that we need to do is to wire wrap our hearts. And actually before we do that, you'll want to decide how you want to arrange your colors. Of course you can use any colors you want. These are just the ones I had. I thought that the red would be pretty for the holidays as well as for any time, the Valentine's. So I'm going to do them like that, with the one color, the lone color on the middle length of chain, and then the 2 clears on the longest and the shortest. Also, if your wire is a little bit kinked, like I see mine is, this looks like a scrap that I saved, you can use a pair of nylon jaw pliers to straighten it. So hold it with a pair of chain nose and then your nylon jaw pliers to straighten it out nicely before we start wire wrapping. So here's a tip for you to help keep you from wasting wire. I started off with a scrap and I'm going to measure it, and it's just under 3.5 inches long. I know this will be plenty to wire wrap my heart bead. And then when we're done wrapping, I can measure what's left and I'll know exactly how much each bead needs. And that way we can cut some wire and not be wasting it. So to wrap these beads, the first step is to put a piece of wire through the hole in your heart and leave about 1/2 inch sticking out the other end. And then fold both ends up. This is 24 gauge wire, so you can easily fold it with your fingers. Fold them both up until they're both parallel to each other and perpendicular to the hole in the bead. Next, crisscross until they meet just above the top of the bead. You don't want your triangle tip to be way up here because that's kind of loose and sloppy. You want it to be pretty close to the bead. And then grab each of those wires right where they crisscross and bend them up so that they're running parallel again. So you have a triangle shape with 2 wires coming out of it, a long one and a short one. Now this short one we need to make even shorter. We need to trim that down to about 1/8 of an inch. I know it seems impossibly small right now, but when you're working on it, it'll seem huge and long. Okay, and that's where our wraps are going to go. So we'll secure that in a minute. But the next step is to grasp those two wires so that the edge of your chain nose pliers are right at the edge where that shorter wire is. It should be right at the edge of the pliers. And then we're going to bend that longer wire down so it's at a 90-degree angle. Then tuck your round nose pliers in to that angle and start to wrap the wire around. When you can't go any further, go ahead and reposition your round nose pliers and then finish making that wrap. So now you should have a nicely shaped loop, and you should have a wire sticking out at a 90-degree angle to the one that's coming out of your heart bead. Now don't do what I did already once and forget. At this point you have to slide on your chain. I'm going to put this one on one of the 1-inch pieces of chain. Because that's the whole purpose of making the wrap loop, is that it's secured to the chain. Next, I'm going to grab that loop with my chain nose pliers and I'm going to put it into my non-dominant hand. And then, because this wire is nice and long, I can do it with my fingers. I'm going to, as neatly as I possibly can, wrap that wire down to the base of the heart, or to the top of the heart. You don't want to get too tight or too close, because it is crystal, it can crack. And I like to go a little farther than I'm going to go, and then back it out. And that way I've taught that wire where I want it to go. And now I can trim it, being careful not to crack your heart. And then ever so carefully go in there with your chain nose pliers and flatten that wire back out. Doesn't want to go. Get in there. Ow. That was my finger. Ouch. There. And that's a nice, neat wrap. Now let's grab this again with chain nose pliers on one end and straighten it out. These are great, the nylon jaw pliers. I made sure when I bought these, by the way, I bought a replacement set of nylon jaws, so when these stop working, I can just replace them. So let's see. So we have 1 inch and 3/8. So 3.5 minus 1 inch, call it 1.5 inches. 3.5 minus 1.5 inches is 2, so about 2 1/8 is what's needed for each of these hearts. So what I'm going to do is cut, I have 5 left, so I'm going to cut a 10 5/8. I'm going to cut about an 11-inch piece. Oh, there's another scrap. I'm going to cut an 11-inch piece of wire, and that should be long enough to wrap all the rest of these hearts. So here you can see I've gone ahead and wire wrapped all the hearts and attached them onto their respective pieces of chain. Actually, the most important thing I can remind you to do is before you finish doing the wraps, make sure you slide on the chain. I actually forgot it, would you believe, 3 of the 6 times, and I had to, thankfully I had a long piece of wire, and because I had to back it out and then use my nylon jaw pliers, straighten it out, slide on the chain, and then rewrap. So remember that the reason you're making the wraps is you're wrapping it onto something, onto the piece of chain. Okay, so now the next step is to wrap these components, which are what will hold our chains together, and then attach to the ear wires. So this first wrap we can do little in the air, so to speak. About, I cut a 6-inch piece of wire. By the way, this is the leftover from the scrap, but my calculations were pretty accurate. This is the leftover from that 11-inch piece that I cut, and that was it. And I only had to use a tool to do the wraps on the very last one, and then cut off that piece. So anyways, to do the first wrap here, we're going to grab this wire about a little more than a 1/2 inch down, and then make a bend over the chain nose pliers so it's at a 90-degree angle. Put in your round nose pliers, start your loop, reposition the round nose pliers, finish the loop, hold onto the loop with chain nose pliers. I probably could have left that a little longer, but I was too busy trying to conserve wire. See, these should be at a 90-degree angle. And, sorry, fumbly, I'm going to grab that right where those wires cross. And then wrap that around a couple times. That's why I like these bent nose chain nose pliers. It's much easier to get in that tight space. And then if there's any excess, go ahead and cut it off with your flush cutters. And now we'll slide on a 4mm bicone, 4mm bicone, a 6mm bicone, and a 4mm bicone. Oh, that's pretty. So once we have the 3 bicones on, I'm going to grab the wire just with the very tip of my chain nose pliers, right where the wire comes out of that last bicone, and give it a 90-degree bend. And then this loop I'm going to make a little bit bigger than the others because it will have to accommodate these 3 chains, and we want them to dangle freely. So I'm going to move up to about 2/3 of the way up my round nose pliers and make my loop. And that's just a little bit bigger than the others. And then I'm going to slide on my chains, and I'm going to put the longest one in the middle. It probably doesn't matter because they just dangle, but okay, so we'll slide those into that loop, just like that. And then, just like before, we'll grab that loop with chain nose pliers, put it into my non-dominant hand, and wrap. And trim off the excess. And then tuck in that wire in. Being careful, remember these are crystals, they can crack, so be nice when you're squishing near them. And then the last step to complete an earring is to open your ear wire, and you open these exact same way you open a jump ring. You don't pull it apart, you twist it apart. And so we'll do that. We'll just grab it with chain nose pliers, just like we would a jump ring. And then I'm going to actually, that bead's in the way, so I'm going to slide it from this end. And then twist it back closed. Here's another look at the project we made today. I hope that you enjoyed it and that it's given you some ideas for your own variation. So go out, pick out some pretty Swarovski crystals and colors that you like, and make a lovely dangly pair of earrings. Thank you so much for watching Keepsake Crafts videos. Here are a couple more that you might enjoy. Please be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you don't miss a thing, and check out my blog, keepsakecrafts.net, for lots more crafting and sewing ideas and inspiration. Have a good one. Bye-bye.